Coming up next, so many so-called one-hit wonders have a quirky, unexpected charm. Sometimes playful, sometimes totally bizarre, but always endearing. They're like musical mysteries or fun trivia sparks, making us wonder what could have been if the artist had kept it going. Of course, here on this channel, we call these things bottle lightning. Artists that had that one blazing firework that took over the world. And today, we're going to count down the 5 craziest lightning in a bottle classics. Man, some great ones here, including the rock band who hated disco, but then a fan yelled out a catchy song title in concert, and they wrote a disco song from it as a joke, and it became a smash. But it became their one and only hit, and then they vanished faster than disco. Then there was a guy who wrote a catchy, syrupy song to mock a genre, and it became a bigger hit than any of the songs from that genre that he was ripping on. Plus, there's the band who sang the wrong lyric because of a typo in one verse, and then because the singer didn't speak English, he accidentally sang a profanity in the next verse, reading the lyrics wrong, and it became a #1 hit twice. But that's nothing, because one of the artists in today's countdown was a one-hit wonder with 4 different bands at the same time. It's all coming up on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you ever made a snow cone with the Snoopy Snow Cone Maker, remember that little house? You're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. I know you'll enjoy taking a daily ride in our time machine. Cover some great songs. We've got some great interviews coming up. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on Spotify or Apple. Click here, click there. Give us a rating and follow us there. We got a great show for you today. The other day I was thinking, when I first started this channel, I used to call these top 5 countdowns fivers. And for some reason, I got out of the habit of doing that. So I'm going to go back to that tradition, and we're going to call these fivers. For today's fiver, I wanted to count down the top 5 craziest origins of bottle lightning classics. Many people call them one-hit wonders, but the process of their creations is a big part of what makes these songs such rare treasures. They leave a mark on our lives in unexpected ways, so let's get into it. Today I'm going to start with an honorable mention, though. I got an extra one for you here. This one's really funny. A rock band that hated disco that scored one of the most beloved disco hits ever. It's Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry. If you remember back in the day when nightclubs were thick with cigarette smoke, you'd go to see your favorite band and it didn't matter what you wore, you'd come out smelling like cigarettes for weeks, even after washing. It's just part of that scene, and honestly kind of added to that whole vibe. Even though the smell is terrible, I don't miss it. But let's go back to that smoky time in the mid-70s. A small rock band called Wild Cherry. Again, the key here is that they were a rock band, and they hated disco. Keep that in mind. They were playing a gig in one of those smoke-laden clubs in Pittsburgh. Started off as nothing special, just a typical one-night stand to make a little bit of money. Wild Cherry, named after a box of cough drops, was a straight-up rock band, like I said. Not a hint of funk or disco in their repertoire. But in the middle of their set, on that very night, something unexpected happened. In between songs, an African-American in the audience shouted out from the crowd, "Play some funky music, white boy!" Now, it was the only thing that the band heard from the crowd. For a moment, the club, it went really quiet. The band didn't have a comeback for that one, at least not yet. Frontman Rob Parisi, he was taken aback. But, instead of dismissing the bold request, he scribbled the phrase quickly in a bar order pad. An impulsive, off-the-cuff response to that moment. Now, little did he know that scribbled note would become the springboard for one of the most iconic party anthems of all time. Rob and the band decided to craft a song around what that man shouted. They wanted to capture raw, infectious energy, the call for the funk, the groove, the party. And the result was Play That Funky Music, a track that combined rock edge with a funky groove and a chorus that instantly got people moving. It was a dance track. Lay down the boogie and play that funky music till you die. And actually, true story, they used the Ohio Players' #1 smash Fire as a guide to create what they hoped would have a similar success without blatantly ripping them off. I'll have to play them back to back and see what you think. Play That Funky Music had such an irresistible funky groove, though. One would never believe that Wild Cherry actually hated disco, because it was disco. They saw themselves as a rock band only. Play That Funky Music was their way of jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak, without fully embracing or endorsing the disco scene. They wanted to cash in on the trend, but still keep their rock roots intact. Well, they did cash in. Play That Funky Music boogied all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the Hot Soul Singles Chart in '76. One of the biggest songs of that year. So the only problem was that Wild Cherry would never earn any rock credibility, no rock cred. They ended up as a crazy one-hit wonder. The rock band, they hated disco, they had only one hit. They happened to be one of the biggest disco songs ever. And much like disco, the band faded into obscurity. But actually, a little update to the story. The band's guitarist, the man that played Play That Funky Music, he became the shredder for 2 rock bands, Molly Hatchet and currently with Foghat. Here's what he told me about the song.
The song is autobiographical. We were a rock band playing in Pittsburgh, tri-state area, and that's when there was this giant club we used to play called 2001, which was a futuristic name at the time, right? It was 76, the 2001 Club, ooh, the future. And but it was a big lighted dance floor discotheque, huge, and we're playing Foghat, Robin Trower, Led Zeppelin, that's the songs we were playing, and you could hear crickets, and then they'd put KC on, and the dance floor would cram out. So someone actually said that to our drummer one night, you better play some funky music, white boy.
Coming in #5 of the countdown of our crazy one-hit wonder stories, I got Putting on the Ritz, a creepy yet mesmerizing new wave cover by a mysterious singer from Hamburg, Germany, who called himself Taco.
Don't you go where fashion sits, putting on the Ritz.
Among the sea of synthesizers in the new wave era of the 80s, there came a Dutch singer with a wild imagination named Taco O'Kurs. He went by the stage name of just Taco. Taco was a classically trained musician with a flair for the theatrical.
Putting on the Ritz, putting on the Ritz.
He first stumbled upon Putting on the Ritz, originally penned in 1929 by Irving Berlin as part of a cabaret act.
Don't you go where Harlem sits, putting on the Ritz.
But instead of sticking to the traditional jazz version, Taco was inspired by the electronic innovation of new wave and envisioned a completely different approach to the song. A funky, futuristic, synth-heavy rendition that would make jazz and swing fans do a double take.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to.
Now, Taco's version of Putting on the Ritz was so outlandish that the music video featured him in flamboyant costumes, dancing in surreal, almost cartoonish sets. It was a deliberate attempt to parody and to celebrate the extravagance of Hollywood's golden era, but, with a modern tongue-in-cheek twist.
Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue?
Several key executives at Polygram, Taco's record label, they hated the song. There was John Betancourt, who was the head of promotion for the label, and John was given the directive to release the song as a single, and he followed that directive, but behind the scenes, he bet the A&R staff $1,000 that the song would be a complete bust. He definitely lost that bet. Taco's Putting on the Ritz soared up the charts in 1983, reaching #4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and becoming a massive hit worldwide, crowned at #1 in Finland, Sweden, Canada, and New Zealand.
I want you to tell me.
Taco's flamboyant style and over-the-top delivery made it a pure cult hit, even if critics thought it was a little weird. Taco tried to recreate the magic for a modern rendition of Singing in the Rain next, but the only country where it got any traction was Finland. It peaked at number 28.
Rain, just singing in the rain.
Now, the original music video for Tacos Putting on the Ritz was meant as a tribute to early 20th century America. But it went over a cliff when they decided to create a music video with their dancers in blackface during a few scenes.
See, how about you and me, says.
That caused the video to be banned from several TV networks. Consequently, an edited version was created where the blackface performers were either replaced with a photo of Gary Cooper, who was, of course, name-checked in the song, or cropped out.
Trying hard to look like Gary Cooper.
Coming in at number 4, it's the story of another mysterious artist that used a single letter as his moniker. It's the crazy and ironic tale of Pop Muzik by M.
Pop music, pop music. Radio video.
You know, when 1980 rolled in, the music scene was transitioning with a variety of subgenres dissipating and emerging. Disco had died, and new wave was coming on strong, as was the country music crossover market. You know, you had artists like Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton and Ronnie Millsap and the Oak Ridge Boys coming in, crossing over.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are.
Enter a musician named Robin Scott, who could care less about being a star. I mean, so much so that he preferred to be faceless and nameless for that matter. He identified himself simply as M. Robin decided to create a song that was purely a parody of the very culture that he seemed to despise. He wanted to poke fun at the shallow, repetitive nature of radio hits. So in the mocking fashion, he crafted Pop Muzik, a track with robotic vocals, quirky synth sounds, and lyrics that explicitly celebrated pop music's superficial side. Robin expressed that pop music was meant to be a satire, a tongue-in-cheek critique of the very industry that was marketing him hits and me hits. The song was loaded with ironic lines, mocking how formulaic and commercial pop had become. This song was definitely a wink to the audience, a way to say, look at this silly, disposable music that we're all obsessed with. And he was doing it with a sense of humor. But the ironic twist, the song ended up blowing up, becoming a massive international hit. It topped the Billboard Hot 100, the UK singles chart, and beyond. As the song goes, New York, London, Paris, Munich, everyone was talking about Pop Muzik. But not the Pop Muzik, the actual song by him. Robin Scott, the mastermind behind the artist billed as M, thought Pop Muzik could be a cult hit, or maybe even a quirky underground track, at best. Instead, it became a mainstream sensation. It even won a Grammy nomination, and many of the critics not getting the joke actually ripped Pop Muzik as a superficial slice of sugary pop that had zero substance. So he set out to mock it, and then became exactly what he'd mocked. You can't make this up.
Loud and clear.
Halfway through our countdown at number 3, I've got the one about turning Japanese by the Vapors. The Vapors were a quirky band from Guildford, England. And behind this infectious, upbeat, early new wave hit is controversy, speculation, a lot of it, and of course, mystery. Turning Japanese was written by the Vapors lead singer David Fenton, also guitarist Steve Smith. It was inspired by a fleeting feeling, an obsessive crush, a feeling of obsession that felt almost addictive.
I got your picture of me and you.
Now the lyrics, I'm turning Japanese, they were originally meant as a metaphor for feeling out of control or caught up in a moment of intense emotion. Now some interpret it as a comment on the experience of young love and cultural disorientation. David wrote the lyrics in his flat, but had problems writing the chorus. He said that the chorus came to him suddenly when he woke up at 4 a.m. with the lyric turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. Those were in his head, and he used it even though the words in the song title didn't mean much to him at all. Now, what makes turning Japanese so fascinating isn't just this catchy hook. Definitely the rumors and the interpretations that have persisted for decades. It's what keeps the song in the limelight for sure. Okay, so let's get into it. Over the years, many listeners have assumed the song was about Asian identity, or the word they use, cultural appropriation, or that's even racist. Now, the band's never explicitly addressed any of these rumors. They've let the song's mysterious lyrics and ambiguous tone fuel the speculation. Actually, the most persistent rumor is that turning Japanese is a euphemism for master, I can't say it on here, self-love. More specifically, the facial expression associated with the end part of that practice. I didn't make that up. The idea gained traction mostly because of the song's lyrics and the iconic music video, which features the band performing in front of a Japanese backdrop with exaggerated gestures and expressions. The band members have never confirmed or denied this interpretation, like I said. It only added to the mystique. It's kept fans guessing for decades. What do you think? What do you think it means? The Turning Japanese was a smash in the UK. It went to number 3, also went to number 7 in Canada. It rocketed all the way to number 1 in Australia. Although it made the Billboard Dance Chart at number 34, it actually didn't crack the Billboard Hot 100 in 1980. A year later in 81, the Vapors actually reached the top 40 on the Billboard Pop Chart. It peaked at number 39 with a track titled Jimmy Jones, if anyone remembers that song. They're a one-hit wonder with a different song, even though that's not the song everybody knows. Crazy. All right, at the bridesmaid position at our number 2, we've got an example of how a band can slip up, still have a hit, well, as long as the record is in the groove, as they say. I Got the Tell of Venus by Shocking Blue. Now, Venus was composed by Robbie Van Leeuwen, guitarist, sitarist, and background vocalist for Shocking Blue. It's actually music that was inspired by the banjo song by Tim Rose and the Big Three, itself a variation on the 19th century tune Oh Susanna by Stephen Foster.
Oh, Susanna, don't you cry.
Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me.
Now, additionally, the song's distinctive opening guitar riff bears a resemblance to the Who's Pinball Wizard, reflecting the diverse influences that shaped the iconic track. It was the lead vocalist of Shocking Blue that gave Venus the crazy twist, though, Mariska Veras. She was a striking figure on stage. She had those bewitching coal-framed eyes and long jet black hair that was actually a wig. Her sultry voice added to that alluring presence. All right, so here's the story. When Mariska went into the studio with the band to record Venus, of course, Robbie gave her the lyric sheet for her to read off while she was singing in the vocal booth, so she had the lyrics in front of her. The problem was that, unbeknownst to anyone, there was a typo on Robbie's lyric sheet. The line, a goddess on a mountaintop, that was incorrectly written as a godness on a mountaintop. And actually, Mariska sang it that way. She wasn't very fluent in English, so she had no reason to think that the lyric wasn't correct. So, of course, that mistake made it onto the recorded and mastered version of the song. Nobody in the group noticed the mistake until after the song was released. When they realized that Mariska had sung the wrong lyric, they immediately cringed, thinking that the blunder was going to cost them a hit single. But that wasn't the only thing. Another worry they had, another innocent mistake that Mariska made when she sang the song in the vocal booth, that's actually heard in verse 2. The correct lyric is, her weapons were her crystal eyes, but Mariska clearly says crystal ass. Now, the thing is, listeners didn't seem to notice either lyrical snafu and naturally sang the instinctively logical lyric there. And then there's the other thing. If you're following the song structure of, Venus, the song as a story, the narration's really confusing. It's kind of tricky to figure out if Mariska is singing in the first person as Venus or talking about her in the third person. I mean, in the first chorus, the song rolls along with, she's got it, yeah, baby, she's got it.
She's got it. Yeah, baby, she's got it.
And then the next line goes, I'm your Venus, I'm your fire, your desire. But as luck would have it, the song was so catchy. It was so addictive. Listeners didn't give a crap. They didn't care about any of these screw-ups or the narration, if it was first person, third person. They probably didn't even notice. They didn't even notice she said godness. All they cared about was they couldn't get this song out of their heads. They wanted to put down their hard-earned money to buy it.
I'm your Venus. I'm your fire, your desire.
So in the end, Shocking Blues Venus with a godness on the mountaintop, crystal ass, and crazy narration, it went to #1 everywhere. We're talking Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Italy, Japan, New Zealand, France, Singapore, Denmark, South Africa, Spain, and here in the States.
She's got it.
It went to #1 in the 80s again by a different band, Bananarama. In fact, the song's title, Venus, went to #1 3 times.
Venus, if you will. I'm your Venus. I'm your fire, your desire. I'm your Venus. I'm your fire, your desire.
But that's nothing. Our #1 pick was a one-hit wonder, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 5 different times. Here we go. Our #1 pick is the wondrous story of the 5-time one-hit wonder, Tony Burrows, the man, the business referred to as the man with 1,000 voices. Tony sang the lead vocal for hit singles by 5 different acts that were all one-hit wonders, and 4 were on the charts at the same time. No other singers gotten close. First, there was Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes for Edison Lighthouse in January 1970. That went to #5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and #1 in the UK, New Zealand, and Ireland. In the same month in 1970, Tony was singing on United We Stand by the one-hit outfit called Brotherhood of Man. That climbed to #10 in the UK and #13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then came Tony's lead vocal on My Baby Loves Lovin' with a studio group called White Plains. It was a #9 in the UK and #13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Still with me? That's 3. Then a month and a half later, Tony's Golden Pipes graced the recording of a silly little novelty tune titled Gimme Dat Ding. This was by the never to be heard of again assembly of the Pipkins. That ditty, written by Albert Hammond and Mike Hazelwood, made it to #6 in the UK, #7 in Canada, and #9 on the Billboard Hot 100. It also went to #1 in New Zealand. And Tony's 5th and final performance on a one-hit wonder was the summer sound sensation Beach Baby by yet another studio-based group called The First Class. That surfed its way to #13 in the UK and #4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also went to #1 in Canada.
Beach baby, give me your hand.
Despite singing on all of those hits, Tony was so busy working in recording studios, he was often unaware of how many songs he contributed to.
Something that I can remember. Just like
It was only after the hits piled up that he realized he'd been the voice behind a string of top 20 singles. Many went to the top 10. Ironically, he was a one-hit wonder in the eyes of the industry because he wasn't the face of any one band, just the voice behind many. Producers loved the singing voice of Tony Burrows. He had a natural sound that was so smooth and versatile it blended with just about any pop song. The producers would record Tony's vocals, then assemble different studio musicians to perform under various band names, capitalizing on his recognizable voice.
Levi.
So Tony was the voice behind multiple hits, but he didn't need to be an official band member. He was just a hired singer. That meant he never had to tour with any of those groups. Tony was also very charismatic and a pleasure to work with. That's why he got so much work. His voice became one of the most recognizable of the early 70s pop era. Even if the name Tony Burrows never got proper billing. Despite the fame of being the man behind so many hits, Tony has shared that he didn't mind the anonymity. In fact, he appreciated the flexibility and the fun of working behind the scenes, knowing that his voice contributed to some of the most memorable songs of the early 70s. His attitude reflects a sense of humor and acceptance. He's proud of his contribution, but he's also aware of the industry's clever tricks.
Just gotta tell her that I love her endlessly.
It's funny because in interviews, Tony Burrows has often highlighted that he was just doing what he loved, singing, and that the real reward was the music and the joy it brought to his audiences, even if his name wasn't always in the spotlight. I gotta tell you, the mold was broken when Tony Burrows was made. He's truly a one-of-a-kind vocalist and a consummate professional. And you know what? He's done something that Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, Paul Rogers, none of them have done. He's the only person on planet Earth who was a one-hit wonder 5 times. What do you think is the best one-hit wonder ever? What are the craziest one-hit wonders of all time? What are your memories of these songs? I hope you like my top 5 there because, man, so many great stories. Tony Burrows, we told that story a couple of years ago, but man, what an incredible story. A one-hit wonder 5 times. It was on the charts 4 songs at the same time that were totally different bands. I love it. Let's have a great discussion below about Bottle Lightning Classics. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.